from FS Securities. We are an education and information firm on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. And every morning I go through what happened in financial markets around the world and try to forecast what we may see these coming days or weeks. I usually show what investors and traders, how they can trade and what is on the market that makes sense. And by the way, we also see what is hot and what is not, and what you should hold and what you should fold. And by the way, if you like the presentation, why don't you share it with other people that you know? You can review it, you can give us some comments, and we can always improve based on your feedback. Well, overnight and from around the globe, we'll start with the Dow. You can see the Dow was up 2.1%, 557 points, to 26,642. So you can see here the last 3 days we've had some 1.4%, slightly up 2 days ago, and then of course 2.1% up this morning. And the S&P 500, the same situation, 1.3 up. However, it was down nearly 1% the day before. The Nasdaq, the technology index, was up nearly 1%, wiping out half of the losses the day before. And the stock X50, which actually comprises most major European markets, overnight was down nearly 0.9%. The FTSE was steady. The DAX was down 0.8%. And in Japan, the Nikkei index 225 was down 0.9%. And in China, the Shanghai index was down nearly 1%. And on our market yesterday, we were down 0.6%, 36 points lower, taking some of the profit that we made the day before. When you look at 36 and 36, that's 72, and then the gain of 58, then obviously over 3 days, we're still in the red. The futures this morning showing the market most likely will open 28 points higher, and that is 0.5%, taking us to slightly below the 6,000 level. Gold down $2 from yesterday morning. By the way, these figures reflect the difference between this morning and last night. I like to compare apples for apples. These are the closing prices every morning. So you can see that 18.14 down nearly $1.20. Yeah, that's what it is. And silver was down 15 cents to $19.64 US per ounce. Copper was down 0.6%. Brent oil 37 cents higher, and West Texas crude oil 34 cents higher compared to yesterday morning. Soybeans 0.4% higher, but we've seen major drops the last couple of days. The Australian dollar 69.77, let's call it 69.8 US cents, slightly up from yesterday morning. The euro against the US 61.2, slightly up. And the Australian dollar versus the British pound 55.5 and 106 New Zealand, $1.06 New Zealand. Iron ore price continues to go higher, up 1.3% to $112.48 US per ton. Remember yesterday morning I told you that iron ore was up nearly 5%, and of course BHP, Rio and Fortescue had very good days yesterday, okay, according to the iron ore. Bitcoin trading for $15 up to 9,244. However, for the Australian dollar, it converts to 13,255 Australian dollars. Now looking at the charts, we see here that the Dow had a good, amongst the last 4 days, very good candle, green candle. However, when you compare that big red candle that we've seen about 6 days ago, we are nowhere near the high that we've seen previous to that. Looking at the indicators that we use for our recommendation and our forecast, the parabolic stop and reverse for the weekly is bullish. Stochastic is starting to turn bullish, obviously because of the effect of what happened yesterday. That's the weekly, by the way. That's a combination of 3 days of trading. If you look at that orange dotted line that represents the 9-week moving average, climbed above the 21-day moving average, the black dotted line, that is bullish. So on the weekly, we have most of the indicators, and by the way, we use 8 indicators, and we need to have at least 5 out of 8. So it looks like, it seems to be bullish on the weekly. Looking at the daily, the parabolic stop and reverse is bullish. Stochastic is bullish. The non-day above the 21-day bullish. The candle, the daily candle, very big, hitting the upper band of the Bollinger Band. So that's actually very positive as well. On our market, we're still stuck between the 50% retracement between the high and the low of recent months. And we tried once to exceed the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement, and we failed. So we are stuck in this area between the 50% retracement and the 61.8 retracement. Looking at the indicators, the weekly, the stochastic is bearish. The daily stochastic is bearish. Parabolic stop and reverse bullish for both weekly and daily. And the non-day, that's the dotted orange line above the black dotted line, that's bullish. So we have some confusing indicators, non-conforming, so the trend is actually very volatile, which of course when you trade on technical basis, trends, very clear trends, proves that the indicators are very accurate and reliable. When it's volatile, some of the indicators hover between up and down and can confuse the forecast. Looking at the mechanical system from where we pick up all the indicators, as I mentioned, 5 indicators out of 8. The Dow remains neutral for some reason. We turned from very strong bullish to bearish for 1 week, and then we started the week with neutral. However, because of the last trading days, obviously that changed from Saturday morning to Wednesday morning, where we turned again bullish. The Nasdaq, for some reason, because we didn't have a great climb yesterday, we turned neutral for the conservative trader. Just to explain, the investor, we look at the monthly and the weekly. The conservative trader, we look at the weekly and the daily. And for the very aggressive trader, we look for much more condensed and fast trends. So you can see on the daily basis, we are remaining mostly bullish on the American market. Gold, again, we started to go neutral for the conservative trader, but for the long-term investor, we're still bullish. And the silver, we remain bullish across all type of clients. Crude oil, for some reason, we've turned from bullish to neutral and now bearish. That's interesting. The Australian dollar, we've gone from bullish to less bullish to neutral. So it looks like we stuck below the 70 US cents. That's Australian dollar versus the US. Okay, now for our sectors, we can see that gold remains mainly bullish. Materials, of course, because of BHP, Rio and Fortescue and the price of iron ore, then we are very strongly bullish. So for BHP, Rio and Fortescue, we have good positions here. And consumer staples, people are buying toilet rolls and all the stuff in Victoria because of the coronavirus, pushed up the price of Woolworths and all the consumer staples company. We are bearish on the consumer discretionary. Sorry, Harvey Norman. Energy, the oil, we've gone bearish. So if you have position on any oil stocks, maybe it's time you look at taking some money out if you're not already out. Remember, we do that every day, and you've seen these recommendations at least 3 days ago. Okay, for our stocks, BHP, of course, bullish. Rio, not as much as BHP. I think BHP has had better indicators. Why is that? Because Rio yesterday lost 1%, affected the price of Rio here, from very bullish across all type of investors and traders. But for BHP, we had a rise yesterday and pushed these indicators up. Telstra, see 11% rise yesterday, 11%. Why not remain with Telstra? We had 15% 2 days in a row. Sorry, this is actually the weekly. We've had the weekly, sorry, this is the weekly. And we have to look at the daily. Telstra remains bullish. Yesterday, Telstra dropped 0.3% and it dropped 0.6% the day before. But then remember, last week it was up by 11%. So the indicators still continue to remain bullish, because even though we've lost the last couple of days, the indicators might take some more days to form. Okay, but BHP remains bullish. Rio remains bullish. Rio was up yesterday, up 2 days in a row. And BHP up 0.3%. CIMIC, the old Leighton Holdings, had major drops days before, but their 1.4% rise did not wipe out all the losses from previous days. NAB, bearish. ANZ, bearish. CBA is the only bank that happens to be strongly bullish. Why? Had 2.1% rise 2 days ago and 0.5% drop yesterday. Did not really affect the indicators because of that big rise. Okay, we like to look at volume. It's interesting here, every time we've got more advances than declines, the volume is up. Yesterday we had more declines than advances, the volume dropped. The day before, more advances than decline, the volume was up. And you can see here the pattern. So really what we see here is that when the market is up, it brings more investors and traders in the market. When the market drops, most people sit on the sideline and don't sell, expecting the market to go back up. The last 5 days, we can see that overall, the last 5 days, we had more declines than advances. So it's interesting here, when the advances were higher, 38%, 31%, but the last 5 days, we've got more declines than advances. Okay, we also like to look at the best performers of the day. OpenPay, by the way, we have recommended OpenPay yesterday morning and the day before regarding trading OpenPay, and it had 9% rise yesterday. So we've entered the market, and I'm going to show you the CFDs trading that we've done on OpenPay. We continue to be in OpenPay and we're still recommending it. And by the way, check our website, go into our picks, and there is a paper published for OpenPay, and you have more details about the company. Treasury wines, we've had Treasury wines up 4% yesterday, and did it appear the day before? Well, I can't see it, but anyway, it looks like it did, because that's why it's painted yellow. Okay, Rio up 2 days in a row. Rio was up 1.4% yesterday. and was up 1.9% the day before, and so on. You can see here all these companies. We don't worry about the one with the negative declines. Remember, this will be on the website later on, and you can actually go and review that presentation once more. Okay, in terms of announcement today, we don't have much announcement. Sorry, I didn't update it. But looking at companies with yesterday, we've seen Rio had 1.4%, but the volume was only slightly up, 17%. Not a great deal. We like to scan the market to see which stock has had more reasonable increase above the moving average. We look at 50 days volumes, and then we work out the moving average across the 50 days, and then we compare yesterday volume with that average, and we scan the market to see which stock has actually had more volume than the average. Well, Rio slightly up. I wouldn't worry too much about it. On the negative side, for the top 50, nothing. Now for the mid cap, those people who are more aggressive traders, Sigma was up 4% and had nearly 50% more volume yesterday than the average. As you can see here, the 50-day moving average is 2.4 million. Well, yesterday we had nearly 4 million, and the price went up by nearly 4%. Hub 24, nearly 2% rise in the volume and 50% above the average. On the downside, if you can trade CFDs on the downside, SG Fleet Group down 9% and nearly double the volume, and so on. And again, all of these will be on the website, so you can go back and revisit. I mentioned that we are trading OpenPay. We have some position. We have 4 contracts. The average price is 4.2, and the latest price was 4.4, making small profit. But we're losing money on Western areas. So we need to actually go back and see whether we should really get out of Western areas. Yesterday we went in and we put a trading stop loss and a target profit. It hit the target profit, and we made from 4.1 to 4.7. That's nearly 10% profit in just a few hours. Okay, right, now the disclosure. Our disclaimer: everything we presented today is actually for general advice only. We don't know your financial circumstances, and you need to assess your risk appetite before you enter any trade. And if you have any questions, all you have to do is ask. If you're going to ask, well, you can talk to us or the professional advisor. Anyway, my website is fssecurities.com. You can write to me at george@fssecurities.com.au. I'm available on the website, and I'm available on email. You can ring my mobile or can send me some text. If you're ringing from overseas, 61 is the country code. You don't need the 0. 61-411-259526. If you're sending me a text or you're calling me on from a local area like Australia, then of course it's 0411-259526. Happy trading, and I hope you make some money today.